Welcome to Game News for May 3rd, 2013. I'm Chris, and I'm joined... How do you say that?
Conjoined.
I am conjoined.
I've been experimenting.
And I'm joined by my fellow broadcasters, Mike.
What's up?
And Grover.
Hi!
This week, Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto V had 3 new trailers released this week, giving insights into its 3 main playable characters, and how the mechanics of the story will work, while simultaneously showing off the expansive world and big graphics. It's slated for release on Xbox 360 and PS3 on September 13th, and I wouldn't be too surprised if a PS4 and Xbox 720 launch won't be hinted at by or before E3. Meanwhile, Kim Swift of Portal fame and Airtight Games, creator of Dark Void, teamed up for a crazy roguelike dungeon crawler game with a cross between Viking lore and 70s funk,
Groovy!
Binding them together for some rhythm-based combat in Soul Fjord, an exclusive to the Ouya, the first from major game designers that I've heard of. No cost release date yet, but it will be downloadable only and possibly ready for Ouya's official public launch on June 4th. Aliens Colonial Marines has another bit of legal news going on, as law firm Edelson LLC is taking on a false advertising case that claims that the game's demonstrations and trailers promised one thing and the game delivered another, including missing features. Sega and Gearbox have both responded to the lawsuit, feeling confident that it will get thrown out as it stands on no merit. Regardless of where the lawsuits and the company finger-pointing ends up, this may go down as one of the biggest faux pas in gaming in recent years. Speaking of TimeGate, one of the studios, which was on Colonial Marines project, has filed for bankruptcy after losing the appeal case on which South Peaks Interactive's own lawsuit over the game Section 8 from some years back that gained South Peaks Section 8's franchise. Millions of dollars worth of creditors are looking to get their money back before the bankruptcy is confirmed, including a local pizza shop, according to Polygon, seeking $34.80 in bills.
What?
I get them all in it. Robin Antoniuk, the original designer behind the biggest American football franchise ever, Madden NFL, filed a lawsuit against Electronic Arts which accuses EA of not honoring its loyalties or profit sharing for the 99+ million NFL games that has been sold since its creation way back on computers like the Commodore 64 and Apple II. EA has tried to have the case dismissed, but California federal judge denied the very last attempt since the lawsuits began in April 2011. The official trial begins in June 17th. And lastly, 38 Studios has been in straits of their own ever since their bankruptcy last year, when they couldn't pay back the $75 million plus in interest that Rhode Island loaned them as an enticement to bring their studio to the state in 2010. Now, some former studio execs has once again asked Rhode Island to dismiss the case against them, saying that there's been no evidence that anyone within the company has ever tried to defraud the state or anyone else in their dealings. However, the Rhode Island Economic Development Corp say otherwise, claiming they have crushing evidence and is seeking a complaint that includes 17 counts of criminal behavior. Meanwhile, many politicians and groups are still discussing the options of what to do with the bill left over from the loan. Square Enix has made more layoffs, this time focused on their fairly recently acquired European and UK offices that were the likes of the former Eidos. No word on which studios and how many were actually fired, but this comes in as the damages from last year's underwhelming financial breakthroughs. But despite this, it should be noted that the games that missed the projections Square had from the European studios included Tomb Raider, which is the best-selling game in the UK this year, with 3.4 million worldwide in sales in the first 3 weeks. Sleeping Dogs was last year's most successful IP, outselling even the critical darling Dishonored, and Hitman Absolution, which was the 5th best-selling game of 2012.
I think Square, retracted. I'm not allowed to say anything about Square. Put his own sawdust down.
Nintendo is offering yet another buffer in its costs to be selling refurbished 3DS and DSi XLs on their online store with prices as cheap as $99.99 for a basic DSi to $168.98 for a 3DS with Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D packed in, and a few variants in between. All of these come with a 1-year warranty with thorough cleaning and testing processes, guaranteed to be perfectly functional with perhaps minor cosmetic blemishes. This is notably cheaper than what GameStop charges for their own resale copies.
Speaking of Nintendo, a hacker group has claimed that it has been able to break through the Wii U's copy protection and use USB devices to access pirated copies of Wii and Wii U software. Nintendo has knowledge of the group, but says they have yet to see reports or evidence that suggests any of this has actually really taken place. They are monitoring the situation and any other threats to security of its products against hacking and piracy. So they've got it under wraps.
Nintendo's always had an eagle eye for their pirates.
Yeah, they've always been hardcore on it.
Without much surprise, the king of FPSs rolls on as this week Call of Duty Ghosts was announced, planning to hit PS3, Xbox 360, and PC on November 5th, which is becoming something of an annual affair for one of the biggest media franchises ever, as it's amassed the biggest sales of all time for any medium.
Oh boy, another Call of Duty.
Special PS4 and Xbox 720 versions are also in the works. A lot of the usual buzzwords the series sees was being used once again, like raising the bar, and all new gameplay experience, and of course, redefines the series that we've all heard since the series broke from World War II into the modern age with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. We'll see if this fall, if the biggest brand still has steam left in it. In other game reveals, 2K and Firaxis announced the latest from Sid Meier, a project of Ace Patrol, or Sid Meier's Ace Patrol, an iOS turn-based combat game featuring World War I aircraft and over 120 missions. This also includes multiplayer modes. Both it and Firaxis' other new App Store release, Haunted Hollow, a strategy light game featuring classic monsters and ghosts, released this week. Several names have been thrown out at game movies over the last years as various studios battle scripts and production and politics even to get their latest titles made. Get their tails. Oh, I feel like Popeye all of a sudden. And
you did that so perfectly.
And politics to get their titles made. Gears of War is one such film, and Variety reported this week that Scott Stuber is the latest to sign on as producer. He was also a producer on movies like last year's Ted and Battleship, as well as the upcoming 47 Ronin with Keanu Reeves.
You guys remember the Star Citizen? We've talked about him a couple times. It's the space game simulator from the classic Wing Commander creator Chris Roberts and his Cloud Emporium game studio. Well, they were making lots of money before. Now they're making even more damn money. I remember at first they wanted $2 million. That's all they said they would probably need. They've got that. They've got $2.1 million for Kickstarter, and their website is still continuing to make money, and it's so far at $6.8 million. Damn near $10 million now. This game is probably going to be awesome, and it's got high demand, apparently. Also, its release date is far from announced, and more things implemented, like support for the Oculus Rift VR headset, and a new office and same amount of cost for development. So in other words, they know they have the money now, so they're getting their asses in. They're getting a bigger office and everything else, which is good for them, since everybody thought that genre of games is dead and someone's yelling in the background like crazy.
Maybe it was one of the burrows.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're getting their asses in gear. There goes one now.
And it can't go on. But in other news, and another Kickstarter that's not doing so well, the far less successful Ed Annunziata Big Blu-rays only about 8% of its needs for a goal on Kickstarter. It was meant as a spiritual successor to the old-school Echo the Dolphin games, and made by its original creators. Big Blue is now going to be reduced to Little Blue, a stripped-down variant of the game, and will try to get on Kickstarter to see if they can pull it off this time, with hope if its success as a project may be seen, and they will try to make Big Blue again later. That sounds like a really horrible idea, but good for them.
At least they're still trying to keep at it.
They're trying. I just don't think people are going to snatch it. They didn't want the big one, and so I just don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they just thought it was too complicated and didn't think they could achieve it. So maybe a smaller version would be more.
I did the math, but didn't write down the numbers. I'm not smart.
Echo the Dolphin. Why did you need $600,000 for Echo the Dolphin-like game? What?
I think they're trying to make it a full 3D like the one that's on Dreamcast.
Oh, make it 2D. 2D's awesome for that stuff. I never liked 3D.
And rounding out our other games news for the weeks, a little bit of rapid fire. TechCrunch has reported that Google has hired former LucasArts game designer Noah Falstein, as it seems to hint that he will be designing games for Google in the very near future. Ubisoft has rescheduled the adventure-y RPG-y South Park: The Stick of Truth game they bought from THQ earlier this year for a launch later this year, despite its stalls that originally had it seeing a launch in March.
After angry rants from gamers about Katie Couric's special report called "Are Video Games Ruining Your Life?", in which she talked about violence and medical opinions because nobody else has anything ever to say about video games other than the violence and medical problems caused by them.
Of course.
She used Twitter to ask gamers to tweet the positive sides of violent gaming and then asked to use those tweets on her show.
Well, I've been playing video games. It's just been known to just, make your dick fall off and give you hepatitis C
What?
and...
It's like that Weird Al song, Virus Alert.
You may randomly explode. Oh, wait a minute. We do that.
Yeah, okay. Now that I have my nightmare fuel, Tryon Worlds announced that their multi-platform action MMO Defiance has reached 1 million users after only a month in action. Coordinated with the hit Sci-Fi Channel series, the game and show interconnect, including plots of the game, can affect the show from season to season. In other words, players can actually change how the show is written, and contests where the players can be as guest stars on the show. Also, SNK revealed their latest crossover game, but it is a iOS Android card battle game called King of Fighters Cross Fatal Fury, which is a little redundant for the people who know what King of Fighters is. Featuring about 100 cards, and presently in Japan only, it makes me miss card fighters. And while we're on fighting games, Team Ninja has teased that they will be making a Dead or Alive expansion for Dead or Alive 5, featuring updates and new characters, including the long-expected Momiji from the Ninja Gaiden series.
Suda51 ranted against foreign publishers this week, claiming that their demands cause breakdowns of creativity and that the publisher's sales theories hurt the sales of games like his recent Lollipop Chainsaw. His next game, Killer is Dead, will be developed by his own studio at Grasshopper Studios and published by their owner, Gung Ho Online Entertainment. Gung Ho was the studio behind Ragnarok Online, and that game had a fairly large following, so we'll see what happens with this down the road.
This Ragnarok Online 2 is coming out very soon? Or is that... Yeah, that was last week. Wow, that is very soon.
I do wish publishers would give their developers a little more slack so they could make their damn game better.
Well, you do have to balance your money income with your money outgoing, so they have to make their money or they can't produce games. So
I keep forgetting about the damn shareholders.
Yep. And Sony is fending off financial difficulties by removing bonuses for 40 of their top executives, including Chief Executive Kaz Hirai. It's estimated this will save the company as much as $10 million over the next year. And this is voluntary, as I understand it. So, actually good for them. This is 40 people who cut $10 million off their paycheck. Now, if only the government...
Don't go there.
Oh, no.
I secretly agree with you.
Our YouTube channel will just get disappeared and we will go too.
And Apple, this is just about as bad. And Apple has offered a gigantic offer to the financial community in the form of $17 billion in bonds investors can buy from the company, with 6 different options that range from 3 to 30 years. But ultimately, as experts have been saying, these bonds aren't much better than the incentives one can buy into the U.S. Treasuries, and worse, that the bonds will likely be worth a little less than their face value for the first little while. So investing in their stock is still the more rewarding sell at present. And finally, Minecraft Snapshot 13W18C was released, including tons of various fixes between versions A and C, a texture loading fix, recipes for the leashes and hay bales that's been missing up till now, and a new coal block. And I believe that is our news for, not June, May, that is our news for May 3rd, 2013. Keep an eye on us, and we'll be back. That's not how I want to end this. How do they close out news shows? I'm Chris, reporting for Game News.
I'm Tom Brockall and whatever.
Reporting for PrinnyCast.